Hello, I'm gonna do a little pregnancy Q&A. So for those who are new here or may not know me, let me give you a little background. So I am 26 and in 2019 I was diagnosed with my first chronic illness, gastroparesis, and over the years I struggled with it, and then I ended up getting a GJ feeding tube, which currently looks like this, in February of 2021, and I've had it ever since. And then throughout the years I've also got diagnosed with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS, and hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But my main issue, the main thing that I struggle with day to day is gastroparesis and slow intestinal motility. I also have that. That's kind of like, yeah, what's going on with me? And now I'm pregnant. So let me answer some questions. So I'm going to start with probably the most common question that I got on my Instagram. And that was just questions regarding my feeding tube. So there was a few different things that people asked. So I'll start with the first one. A lot of people asked if they raised my calories. And personally, no, they did not. I felt comfortable with that decision, and my doctors felt comfortable with that decision because I was very nutritionally sound before getting pregnant. So what I was doing kept me at a healthy weight and nutritional status. It restored me back to my original weight before I got sick. So they were just fine with me sticking with my normal routine. I'm 16 weeks now, but so far everything looks good. The next question a lot of people ask is is my tube gonna be fine throughout pregnancy? And what did you do? Did the doctors do anything to prepare the tube for pregnancy, or will I have to get it changed? Can you get it changed? I have to say, a lot of it, I guess, is still unknown. The only thing my GI doctor had me do before getting pregnant was get a fresh tube change, because you can't get tube changes while pregnant. Because I have a GJ tube, they use x-ray to figure out where the placement is, and radiation isn't the best thing for when you're pregnant, so if you can avoid it, then we do that. So the plans are to keep the same tube that I've had since I got it changed back in December, and hopefully it will last throughout the entire pregnancy and be okay. But honestly, we don't know. A lot of people are asking, does it change? Does it expand? Will it get tighter? Will it get looser? Will you need a new tube? I honestly don't know. We don't know. My doctors don't know. We just have to wait and see what happens. But both my GI and my OB do not seem concerned at all. They seem like this is a very normal thing to have a feeding tube while pregnant. None of them are concerned about what is going to happen. So honestly, I think it's good. And when I was thinking about it, I've had this tube. I got this tube when I was severely underweight, almost 20 pounds lighter than I was now. And I've had the same size tube the entire time, and I haven't noticed any change in how it feels. So honestly, I might be okay. And when you gain weight during pregnancy, you kind of gain it in a different spot. So for me personally, I think I have a really big torso, and my tube is right here, tucked up under my ribs. And if you see, most of my weight gain is starting down here under my tube. So honestly, for me, it might be fine, and it might last the entire 9 months, which is the hope. Another common question that people asked was, has your gastroparesis changed at all during pregnancy? Has it gotten worse? Has it gotten better? And for me right now, like I said, I'm 16 weeks. Things have gotten better, but it took a while to get here because my first trimester was so rough. I was really sick. But the thing is, I could tell it's pregnancy sickness versus gastroparesis sickness. So I wouldn't necessarily say it got worse. In the first trimester, it kind of just stayed the same. But then when I started entering my second trimester, maybe around, I only really started feeling better a week or two ago. But once that started, my gastroparesis is so far better. I'm able to eat more. I'm getting way more hungry, and ragingly hungry. And it's crazy because, like I said, even though I was eating by mouth before being pregnant, my meals were very small. They were snack size meals, and I wasn't getting super hungry. My hunger cues were kind of messed up. But now I have set times of the day that I need to eat. So my eating schedule now is I wake up, and between 8:30 and 9 I have to eat something. Usually it's an apple, but the past 2 days, not today. Today was a little bit of a rough morning, but the 2 days prior to that, I was so hungry that I had a bowl of oatmeal. And this was the first time I've had oatmeal in, I don't know, I think a couple years, because oatmeal was not a safe food for me with gastroparesis, but I just really wanted oatmeal, and I had oatmeal the past 2 days, and it was fine. And I was hungry for lunch a few hours later, which is crazy. So it's definitely an adjustment, but a good adjustment, and I just am in disbelief that I'm still able to eat, or that I'm able to eat now. It's so crazy to me. And then I eat at 12 for lunch, and I wouldn't say what I'm eating now is a normal size portion yet, but it's definitely bigger than I was eating before. And then between lunch and dinner, I also have another snack. My snacks lately have mostly been fruit, because that's what baby girl has been craving. I just want fruit all the time. And that's been another amazing thing. I've been able to eat fruit with seeds again. I haven't eaten a strawberry or any fruits with seeds again for probably the last like 4 years, and now I'm able to tolerate that, and it's amazing because I love fruit. I've always loved fruit, and now baby girl loves fruit, so I'm like, it's perfect, it's amazing, I'm obsessed, I love it. And I'm just so thankful that my sickness only lasts the first trimester, and then in the second trimester it's actually, my gastroparesis so far is getting better, so that's amazing. And then so you have a snack, and then I have dinner, again about the same portion as lunch, and then I have one more snack before I go to bed because again I get hungry, which is crazy. So two meals, 3 snacks, and then I also run feeds overnight as well, the same amount that I have been running since pre-pregnancy. So baby girl's getting a lot of nutrition, and I'm still like not gaining that much weight, but my doctor said it's fine, especially we did labs, everything looks okay with labs, and he said a lot of patients sometimes, especially with their first pregnancy and everything, if they have a really rough first trimester, they might not gain weight until after 20 weeks and so on. So he's not concerned, which is good because everything looks okay with baby girl. Someone asked, does the tube hurt at all like with pregnancy? And right now I would have to say no, because I feel like I gained like 2 pounds, so it really doesn't feel any different for me. Someone asked how it's affecting POTS, but like I feel like I'm not the best person to answer that question because my POTS was honestly not bad at all. I was not on any like medications or anything like that. I would mainly just have to avoid my triggers, which is like heat and standing in one place for too long, and I feel like those things are honestly the same for me while pregnant. I still get super like potsy when I'm standing in one place for too long, and I literally have to squat, and if I get in the heat my symptoms get worse. So I feel like for me I'm not the best person to answer that question. My POTS actually got worse in the first trimester, but then it kind of went, it was only bad for like a couple weeks, and then it went back to my normal. So yeah, I don't know, I'm not the best person to ask that question. Someone asked, how is it being pregnant with a tube? To me, like, it's no different. I've been living my life with a tube the entire time for the past couple years, and it feels the same now. And honestly, I was very thankful for the tube during the first trimester because, like I said, I was so sick. I was struggling with fluids and food intake, but because I had the tube, I was able to still run feeds and fluids. Someone asked, did they adjust your projected weight gain throughout pregnancy? And no, honestly, they haven't really talked to me about weight gain. They kind of just, I don't think they really focus on that necessarily at my OB office because everyone's different, and I think we'll just monitor it over time. It's still pretty early, so I guess we'll just see what happens. Okay, this one is also one I want to talk about. Someone asked, did you have to go off medications? And yes, I did. So I did my own research before we started trying to get pregnant, and I went in to my GI before we started trying to get pregnant, and I specifically wanted to get off Motegrity, so that's what I was on. And I've been on that for, have I been on that for like 3-4 years? I was on that for a long time. And when I was looking it up on my own, what I was seeing on my end, like the doctor's end, because I know they have special databases, what I was seeing on my end is there wasn't any studies on Motegrity during pregnancy, and they were actually having like a study that you could be a part of. And personally, I did not feel comfortable doing that, especially with my first pregnancy, and I was already so anxious about everything. So I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. So I went to my doctor to find an alternative, and I basically just listed all of the meds that I have had in the past that I could maybe try again. And the only one that had some studies done on it, like, I don't remember exactly what studies it was, but it was Trulance, and my GI doctor at this time was safe giving that to me while I was pregnant. He looked up on his database side and he said that was okay. So yeah, we did Trulance, and then I had to go off like acne stuff too. So I went off a retinoid cream, and I just used like a gentle cleanser and an azelaic acid, which is safe while pregnant. I okayed that with my dermatologist. I also went to my dermatologist to figure that out. But I wasn't on a lot of medications to begin with. And then I was also on Zofran, but that is considered safe during pregnancy. I know it has some risks, but for me, during the first trimester, it was necessary. And then I ended up going on Phenergan after I saw my OB because of how sick I was. And then when I went to my first OB appointment at like 7 weeks, I asked him about the Trulance, and he was completely fine with it. Like, he knew the medication and he was safe giving it to me. Someone asked how pregnancy has affected running my small business. So far, it really only affected me the first trimester because I was so sick, and it was so hard because when I'm nauseous, I just want to sit in bed and like try not to throw up. So trying to manage that, my business, while being pregnant, was, especially the first trimester, was so hard, but I managed, and now I feel fine. So like it feels the same, but obviously that's going to change over time, and I don't know what my business is going to look like after I have the baby, but I'm trying not to worry about that right now because I'm not going to know until I have the baby, and then I have to see where things take me. So we'll see. The next question is, are you worried about managing fatigue and pain while taking care of the baby? And yes, but also I feel like I'm not as worried as other people maybe, because my fatigue has gotten a lot better over the past couple years, and then also just running my business has helped me build up more endurance because I work on my business a lot and it's very like hands-on and everything, so I feel like that helped me build up my endurance. And I have a husband who works from home who's amazing, who will help. And new moms are fatigued and have to work through fatigue anyways, even if they don't have a chronic illness. So I just know that I'll find a way. I always find a way, so we'll make it happen. Okay, time for the next big question, which I knew before getting pregnant, when getting pregnant, that everyone would ask this question, and I always was worried to talk about it because it's something people can have very strong opinions on, but we're gonna talk about it anyways. And that is, are you worried about like passing on your conditions to your child? And yeah, that's basically it. So I'm gonna tell you my story, my opinion, and you're allowed to have your own opinions. This is my opinion, so don't judge me on my opinion. Like I said, I was diagnosed with hypermobile EDS, which is clinically diagnosed based on criteria. So I went to a geneticist and I got genetic testing done. So I got a connective tissue panel done first. That was all good, nothing wrong with it, except I have one variant of unknown significance. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically you have a mutation on one gene, but they don't know its significance yet. It could be benign, most likely it's benign, but there just isn't enough research on like the specific mutation yet. So as a whole, my connective tissue panel was normal. And then because that was normal, my geneticist ordered a wider array of genes to be tested, and that one was completely normal. I don't know exactly what all was tested, but that was all normal. And then I did another like carrier screen with my geneticist, which tested a few things, and that was all normal. So genetically, things look okay on my panels right now. Hypermobile EDS right now doesn't have a gene that is associated, but they're trying to find it. That's what I mean. They're trying to find the gene that is associated with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but right now there's so much unknown about that, and you're diagnosed via criteria. And knowing that right now, like my genetics look okay with what information we have, that made me a lot more comfortable. Even if, for example, like you want to go, because I know it's possible to go through like fertility treatments to figure out and avoid certain genes. I believe that's possible. I don't know. I've never looked into it, but I believe it's possible. We wouldn't even know what genes to avoid because my panels all look good. And see, I don't know how to word this properly. I talked about this on my TikTok and I feel like I worded it better on there. But having a disability or chronic illness, mental illness, anything does not mean you don't deserve to live or have a life worth living or carrying on life. It's up to each individual person to evaluate themselves, their health, their situation, and then make the decision for themselves. Like no one else gets to decide for them. And just because you're not quote unquote perfectly healthy, which I honestly don't know if anyone's perfectly healthy, to be honest. A lot of people go through their lives and some people don't find out, like for example, they have conditions until they're older and already had kids. Like you really don't know in life. You don't know fully what your genetics looks like. For example, I could be carrying something else that I don't know. My husband could be carrying a bunch of stuff because he's never been genetically tested. Like you don't know. Nothing in life is guaranteed. So you kind of just have to live life and see what happens. Also, even if you have like perfect genetics, perfect health, spontaneous mutations happen. So your kid could still get sick despite you and like both parties being super healthy. Also, you can become disabled, sick at any time. There's epigenetics. Genes can mutate later on in your life. You can become disabled different ways. So like you really don't know in life. You kind of just have to live life and see what happens and learn from things and deal with it as it comes. I don't know, I feel like I'm not wording that correctly, but that is my opinion. Like I said, everyone can have their own decision when it comes to this and their own opinion. I feel like this is such a hard thing for me to talk about. Like I know how I feel internally, and I know I feel in my heart like this is what I want to do and what I feel called to, and I just feel, I don't know, but it's different for everyone, and especially with everyone's situation. Like I said, this is my situation. Moral of the story, having an illness doesn't make you any less worthy of living, and anything in life can happen, so you kind of just have to vibe and go with it. So the next few questions kind of relate to high-risk doctors. Am I high risk? Have I been given instructions based on my health conditions, like special instructions? And this one I can't fully answer right now because I have not gone to a high-risk doctor, but I don't know if I'm fully considered high risk yet, but I'm high risk enough to where I'm being referred to a high risk doctor because of my conditions. So I see my high risk doctor for the first time at 20 weeks, and we do the anatomy scan and we do the appointment with him. And then I'm going to know so much more. So I can't really ask a lot of these or answer a lot of these questions because right now I've not been given any special instructions related to pregnancy and EDS because that's the high risk doctor's scope, not my normal OB. So right now I literally have no idea what the rest of my pregnancy will hold after 20 weeks. So I kind of have to wait to see that doctor. But depending on how that appointment goes and what I learn, then I will share more. And I have no idea how this appointment is going to go, and I don't know what I'm going to feel comfortable sharing after that, but we'll see. I feel like that's my answer to a lot of questions is, I don't know, we'll see. There's so much, pregnancy is so unpredictable, especially when you have illnesses, so kind of just gotta go with the flow. So I've been asked what I did to get my body ready for pregnancy, and for me, I didn't do anything specifically. Like, I mean, I started taking prenatals before we started trying, and I just made sure I was in a very healthy spot for me personally, and I have been in a very good, stable spot for a while now, so that made me feel a lot more comfortable getting pregnant. Did it take long to get pregnant? Also, what birth control did you have before starting to try? So I did not take a hormonal birth control. I was on it for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, back in, oh gosh, 2018, 2019. And I got off of that because, listen, I'm not someone that somehow struggles with my mental health. But when I was on birth control just messed me up. So I went off of it, and I have not been taking anything since. So I haven't been on birth control for 4 or 5 years, like hormonal birth control or anything in my body. We've just been using external birth control. Yeah, because I just could not do that to my body, and I did not want to. So that worked for me the best. Everyone's different. And I don't foresee myself ever going on birth control again because I did not have good experience at all. But for the question, did it take long to get pregnant? Surprisingly, no. I was shocked because another background is my periods have always been brutal, and my periods are super long. So they're 9 to 12 days every single cycle, 9 to 12 days, and they're heavy, and my cycles are somewhat irregular. So they don't come on the same day. They would come between 27 and 35 days. Like, those would be the length of my cycle. It would never be the same month to month, and my periods would always last 9 to 12 days. So when it came time to conceiving, I was worried specifically from a uterus standpoint, not necessarily my conditions. My severity of my conditions don't necessarily affect my fertility, but I was worried from like a uterus standpoint because I never figured out like why my periods are like that. I've gotten ultrasounds, I've gotten tests, I've gotten hormone tests, and everything always came back normal. So I was just like, well, hopefully my uterus is fine. So we spontaneously decided to start trying December, like our December cycle, like right as I was in the window. Spontaneous, but like also kind of not. We always said when I turned 26, which I just turned 26 a couple days ago, that we would try to have our ducks in a row by the time I turned 26, and then we would reevaluate having children at 26. But then in December, like we were, still 5 months away from me turning 26, and we were just in the car one day, and we were just like, I don't know how we got on the topic, but we were like, so you just want to start having kids? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I like looked at I didn't know much about fertility or conceiving at this point either, because like I said, I have not looked into it. We were not planning to even start or think about it until at least May of the following year of 2024. So I looked at my app that predicted, when my fertile window is. But like I said, my periods are really irregular, so this was probably not the best method for me. But I looked and we're like, oh, so we would have to do it like right now. We have a few days. So the first month, obviously December, didn't work. But then after that, I looked into things a little bit more because I learned you can get like ovulation strips and check ovulation and everything. So I ended up getting my period January, and that period was 12 days long and so heavy. And like I said, that's just my normal though, but I was just getting so frustrated because I'm like, dang, like this period is awful. Like there's no way that this is gonna happen because this period is just. And I was taking ovulation strips because it recommends, I can't remember when it recommends you taking them, but it estimates most people ovulate on day 14. But like I said, my period was 12 days long, so I knew I wasn't gonna ovulate 2 days after I had my period. But then I was like getting in my head about what the internet says, so I was taking ovulation strips like every day, and nothing. They were always negative, and I was getting so frustrated. I was like, not necessarily that we weren't pregnant, but that I wasn't ovulating, because I was like, dang, like I'm not even ovulating. Like I just kept going every single day, and then on day 21 I got a positive ovulation test, and I was like, oh my gosh. But in the meantime, things were happening, even though I wasn't getting a positive ovulation test, because the thing is, you never know when you get a positive, and they're so like, I'm not going to go into the specifics, but you want to do things before you get a positive ovulation test just to be safe, in my opinion. But so we were doing things, and then I finally got the ovulation test, positive ovulation test, and then, you know, things happened. And then I did end up getting pregnant that cycle, even with a 12-day period somehow. I also had a yeast infection at the time, so, but that gave me reassurance, because I'm like, okay, so maybe my uterus is just like long periods. I don't know. So I'm gonna ask about names, if we have a name picked out, and yes, we had a name picked out for the past like 2 years for a girl specifically. We were calling her the name before we even knew she was a girl. My husband said he just knew it was a girl, so. And someone asked for like a video of names I love but won't be using, but I honestly don't know if I can do that because we don't have a long list. I never really made like a long list. Me and my husband are very picky about names, so we kind of only add names to the list that we would highly consider, and this is only a first kid, so who knows. If we have a second daughter next pregnancy, we also have the name picked out for that too, like first and middle. So I'm gonna ask specifically how my EDS symptoms are going, and I feel like that's so hard for me to answer, because again, like even though I was diagnosed with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I feel like my symptoms are very mild and related to that. Most of my symptoms are related to my GI tract, but I haven't noticed like worsening joint pain or anything like that, honestly, which is surprising. I feel like I'll feel that later, definitely, but right now I'm chilling. Oh, another question, am I able to have like a vaginal birth or will I have a C-section? That is a question that I will have to ask my high-risk doctor, because I don't know the answer to that question, and I feel like that's going to vary based on patient to patient. So if possible, I would like to do a vaginal birth, but if it's not possible and it's not safe, then I will do a C-section. But goal is vaginal birth, extra goal is unmedicated vaginal birth. Okay, I actually think that was all the questions. I feel like I got a lot of questions, but a lot of questions were very similar. It's just related to like the tube, my symptoms, and EDS and all of that. So yeah, those are all the questions. If you have any other questions or I didn't answer anything clearly enough, just let me know and I will answer, because I will most likely answer, because I'm trying to be open about this, because I feel like there's not a lot about feeding tubes, chronic illness, and pregnancy. Oh, hello, Rome. Yeah, are we all done? She was sitting with me the whole time, but you couldn't see because she was down there. But yeah, I hope you yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Again, just let me know if you have any questions. And I said this in a previous video, but I honestly don't know what I'm going to be filming this pregnancy and what I'm all going to be sharing. I feel like, again, the theme is we'll just see what happens, because I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll just share what I want to share, and videos will just come when they happen. So yeah, this kitty has been so clingy since pregnancy, which is crazy, because this is our cat, which if you've been watching for a long time, I feel like you hardly ever see this cat. This is our firstborn, Rome, and she likes to keep to herself. She does not like to interact with other people, but she now follows me around everywhere, which is crazy, because she's not a follower. Like, you have to go to her if you want interaction with her, but now she follows me around. Isn't that right, Rome? But she's a very smart kitty. She's our smart kitty. The other cat that is attached to me, which is Lux, which is the one that you probably always see in my videos, she's not the smartest. I'm sorry. But this one, she's so smart. Yeah. Alright, I'll see you next time I see you, which I don't know when that is, but we'll see. Bye.